Have you ever wondered what separates a psychopath from a sociopath? It's a question that's fueled countless discussions, debates, and even movies. However, there's a common misconception that these terms can be used interchangeably. But in the realm of psychology, they are quite distinct. Psychopathy and sociopathy are both antisocial personality disorders, but they're not one and the same. Each has unique characteristics that set them apart. For instance, while both may exhibit a general disregard for laws and social mores, the underlying reasons and manifestations for such behavior can be drastically different. So why does this confusion persist? It's perhaps because these disorders are complex and not easily understood, but don't fret. We're here to untangle this intricate web. We'll explore the key differences between psychopaths and sociopaths, from their emotional capacity to their social relationships, their impulsivity, and their reactions to punishment. Now let's delve into what distinguishes these two complex psychological profiles. First and foremost, let's discuss the emotional differences between psychopaths and sociopaths. These differences significantly shape their interactions with the world around them, influencing their responses, reactions, and relationships. When it comes to psychopaths, they are often described as having a chilling lack of empathy. This isn't simply a case of them not understanding other people's feelings. Rather, they don't experience these feelings at all. Their emotional landscape is akin to a barren wasteland, devoid of the nuances, ebbs, and flows of human emotion that most of us experience. Imagine a conversation where a friend shares a heartbreaking story. While most of us would feel a sense of sympathy, a psychopath would remain untouched. They may mimic the appropriate reactions, but it's merely a performance, an act designed to fit into societal norms. Now let's turn our attention towards sociopaths. Unlike psychopaths, sociopaths do have a limited capacity for empathy. They can form emotional attachments, but these are typically self-serving and shallow. Their emotional experiences are less consistent and more volatile, often skewed by their personal desires and needs. Consider the same conversation with a sociopath. They might show sympathy, even genuine emotion, but it's often fleeting and inconsistent. One moment they might seem deeply affected, and the next, they might dismiss the same story with a shrug. Their empathy, as limited as it is inconsistent and largely dependent on how the situation serves them. In essence, while a psychopath's emotional landscape is a constant, unchanging flatline, a sociopath's is a jagged, unpredictable graph. One is consistently devoid of emotion, while the other experiences it in a limited, self-serving, and erratic manner. This emotional disparity, deeply ingrained and fundamental, influences their behavior, their relationships, and their very approach to life. It's a crucial factor that differentiates a psychopath from a sociopath, adding another layer to our understanding of these complex psychological profiles. This emotional disparity is a fundamental difference between psychopaths and sociopaths. Now let's explore how they interact with others and form relationships. Diving into the social sphere, we find that psychopaths and sociopaths present starkly different behaviors. Psychopaths, with their cool demeanor and calculated charm, are often able to mimic emotions convincingly. They can forge long-term relationships, creating an illusion of normalcy that's hard to decipher. Picture a psychopath as a chameleon, seamlessly blending into their surroundings, maintaining relationships that serve their self-interest. Consider a high-functioning psychopath in a corporate setting. They might rise through the ranks, charming colleagues and superiors alike, all while manipulating situations to their advantage. Their relationships are often built on a foundation of deceit, but their charisma and seemingly genuine emotions make it difficult for others to see through their facade. On the other side of the coin, sociopaths find it challenging to maintain stable relationships. Their behavior is often erratic, impulsive, and unpredictable. This unpredictability can make it difficult for them to maintain steady jobs or relationships, as they might act out without considering the consequences of their actions. Let's imagine a sociopath in a friendship. They may show flashes of intense loyalty, followed by bouts of indifference or even hostility. Their friends might feel like they're on an emotional roller coaster, never knowing what to expect next. This inconsistency in behavior can make it hard for a sociopath to maintain long-term, stable relationships. In essence, while a psychopath's relationships are characterized by manipulation and deceit, a sociopath's relationships are typically unstable and unpredictable due to their erratic behavior. This is not to say that all relationships involving these individuals are doomed. Rather, It's a highlight of the challenges that can arise when interacting with someone who falls under these psychological classifications. As we can see, their approach to relationships is another key difference. Impulsivity is another differentiating factor between psychopaths and sociopaths. As we delve deeper into the intricate world of psychopathy and sociopathy, we encounter the concept of impulsivity. This is a critical factor that distinguishes these two conditions, and it's essential to understand how it manifests differently in each. Psychopaths, in contrast to sociopaths, are generally more calculated and controlled in their actions. Their behavior is often premeditated and meticulously planned. They demonstrate a cunning ability to manipulate and deceive, with a keen sense of timing and a knack for identifying weaknesses in others. This calculated nature makes them highly effective in achieving their objectives, no matter how sinister they may be. For instance, consider a psychopath in a corporate setting. They may systematically undermine a colleague over an extended period, subtly sabotaging their reputation, all while maintaining a facade of friendship. This calculated, controlled behavior is a hallmark of psychopathy. On the other hand, sociopaths exhibit a higher degree of impulsivity. They are more likely to act on a whim, driven by their emotions rather than a premeditated plan. This impulsivity often leads to unpredictable and erratic behavior. Emotional outbursts are common, and these reactions tend to be more intense and less controlled than those of a psychopath. An example of this could be a sociopath in a social setting. They may impulsively lash out at a perceived slight, causing a scene without considering the consequences. This lack of forethought and emotional volatility is characteristic of sociopathy. Remember though, these are general patterns. Not all psychopaths are as controlled as our corporate saboteur, and not all sociopaths are as impulsive as our volatile socialite. People are complex and these conditions manifest in myriad ways, but understanding these general trends can help us recognize and understand these conditions better. Impulsivity then plays a significant role in differentiating psychopathy from sociopathy. The measured, calculated behavior of a psychopath contrasts starkly with the impulsive, volatile actions of a sociopath. This difference in impulsivity is a significant distinction between the two. Finally, let's examine how psychopaths and sociopaths respond to punishment. This aspect is particularly fascinating as it provides a crucial insight into the inner workings of their minds. Starting with psychopaths, the general consensus among psychologists is that they do not learn from punishment. Imagine a child who keeps touching a hot stove despite being burnt every time. The child, in this case, represents a psychopath. They don't connect their actions with the negative repercussions. This lack of learning from punishment isn't due to a lack of intelligence, far from it. Psychopaths are often highly intelligent individuals, but their brains simply don't make the usual connections between action, consequence, and modification of behavior. Now, let's flip the coin and look at sociopaths. They stand in stark contrast to psychopaths in this regard. Sociopaths, being more emotionally reactive, have the capacity to learn from punishment or negative consequences. Let's go back to the child and the hot stove. A sociopath, like most people after being burnt once or twice, would learn that touching the stove leads to pain, and would avoid doing so in the future. This ability to learn from negative consequences is largely due to their emotional investment in the outcomes of their actions. To illustrate this difference, let's consider a real-world example. In a prison setting, a psychopath after serving their sentence is more likely to re-offend and end up back in prison. They don't internalize the punishment as a reason to change their behavior. A sociopath, on the other hand, is less likely to re-offend as they have the potential to learn from the negative experience of imprisonment and adjust their actions accordingly. Their differing responses to punishment further highlights the differences between psychopaths and sociopaths. It's a fascinating world within their minds, one that continues to intrigue and challenge psychologists and researchers around the globe. To recap, we've identified 5 key differences between psychopaths and sociopaths. First, we dove into the realm of emotional capacity, where we saw that psychopaths lack a deep emotional connection, while sociopaths possess a skewed but present emotional understanding. Next, we navigated the terrain of social relationships. Psychopaths, often charming and manipulative, can maintain superficial relationships, while sociopaths, typically more erratic, struggle to sustain any lasting bonds. We then explored impulsivity, finding that psychopaths are usually calculated and controlled, contrasting with the spontaneous, impulsive nature of sociopaths. Finally, we scrutinized their distinct reactions to punishment. Psychopaths, unfazed and unrepentant, show little to no reaction, whereas sociopaths may feel a sense of regret or fear. Remember, understanding these differences can help us better comprehend these complex psychological conditions. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful content.